Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andrew here, back for our build review show. It is Tuesday, September 24th of 2024, and this is the show where I bring users' builds up live on stream, giving them personalized feedback and advice about things I think they can do differently to help improve their post-contest sim ROIs and ultimately build and enter stronger lineups into their contests. So we had a nice long show yesterday. Plenty of people signed up over the weekend. Have another nice long one today with multiple people signed up. So it should be a good one. If anybody likes this content and wants me to do this for them, all you got to do is drop your DK username in the office hours channel in our Discord server, and I can get you added to the queue for a future show. So that's the best thing that you can do for me to help me get you up on the screen. But first up today is going to be Mr. CL, followed by Sauce, followed by Interrogator, and we will keep it rolling from there. So let me get Mr. CL up on the screen, and we will get rolling here. So 1 second. And then we're still going to be doing main slate reviews as well from Sunday here. So that'll be good. All right. So let's see. Almost there. All right. Main slate coming up now. And let me get this up on the screen. All right, so we're going to start in the contest tab as always here. So first things first, got to start with the contest selection. So seeing one weird thing here, I just want to actually report this. So the entries is supposed to be the number of entries you put into the contest as opposed to how many entrants there are. So it looks like there's like a small bug here. So let me just report a problem. Anytime you guys see weird stuff like this, best thing you can do is what I'm doing right now helps us to solve these problems. Entries is not showing how many contests I have. For the mini-max, it is showing number of entrants. All right. So let's get that taken care of. Now, as far as contest selection goes, I think this looks really good. Starting from the ground up, a lot of single entry and 3-max, balancing it out with, the mini-max and the play action here. So all in all, this is like pretty close to like a 50-50 split, which is totally cool. Now, let's see how many entries and stuff we have. I know the team's been working on getting some of these bigger contests set up here. I think we can view one of these. So let's try the first down, see how it goes, see if this comes up. It's our first time trying the first down. Okay. So sometimes you'll get that notification that the page is unresponsive. It's just querying a lot of information. So I could just take a little bit, but it looks like it ultimately loaded here, which is great. And we're studying Le Great here. So that's kind of funny. All right. Entries equal to 20. Sort by sim ROI. So great news is that CL has a 61% positive sim ROI in this contest, which is actually really, really high. It looks like one thing is off here, that we cannot see the sim average score, unfortunately. So we probably won't look at the first down going forward. But these numbers do look reasonable and actually what I would expect to see. So I think that there's just a small thing here with sim average score not coming through properly. No sim average score in first down contest flashback results. Send that to our team as well. But all in all, a lot of these metrics look good. High average salary, high sim ROI, good uniqueness here. I would imagine their sim average score is going to be pretty in line with some of these other users. In the meantime, we can jump over to the quarter jukebox, which has been a very solid and consistent contest for us in these analyses. So let's let this load. Go to users. So really similar sim ROI here. And overall, similar numbers to what we can expect to see. And their sim average score, right? 137.1 here. Top number is 137. Feel like we studied somebody really, really similar yesterday. And they were like kind of in this same range where 137 is okay, but you are a little bit more the exception than the rule here. So a little bit higher sim average score. Probably closer to 140 is probably a little bit better. Might get you up into like the 70, 80% sim ROI range. But overall, very strong start. Very high sim ROI. Notice that this user is swapping here, right? We see multiple swap builds. We see all of these lineups swapped together. So I think that's all good stuff. Let's start with the pre-slate build here. And let's see what they're doing. So it looks like minimum salary up to $49K from $48.5 default. Let's see what this rule is. Don't use players against opposing defense. That's like a standard rule. So all good there. So filling all of their single entries. Just a small note, this doesn't really impact anything, but your uniques actually don't matter for single entries. So because we're going through here one at a time and filling them, basically, whether you have this on 1 or 10, it's going to be the same top lineup. So just a small note there. It does matter for anything above 1 entry, 2 entries, 3 entries, 150 entries. It does matter. So just wanted to point that out. Some lineups, okay, it looks like they remove from pool. Lineups go to the saved and the trash. Okay. Couple of max exposures. We saw something similar yesterday where like somebody was capping the top value players in like Jordan Mason and Zach Charbonnet. You know, this is probably why the sim average score was a little bit lower. I think it's okay to basically say, I know my sim average score is going to be a little bit lower, but I do want to manage my risk to these players. And you can just accept that as, you know, like, okay, yeah, if I would have just played them 100%, I might have gotten like an 80% sim ROI, but I'm okay getting 62% and managing my risk. I think that's a fine trade-off to make mentally here. So I think that's fine. Notice that they're doing these adjustments in the all tab, also important, right? Lad McConkey, some of these running backs, right? You want to capture their wide receiver and flex exposure. And in order to do that, you need to do that in the all tab. So having these exposures here is always going to be better than having them in the individual slots. The only players that it doesn't matter for are the quarterbacks and the defenses, since those players cannot go into the flex. Limited QB2s and QB+1s to pool exposure. If that's something you want to do, I think that's fine. limited Seattle and New Orleans to closer to pool exposure here. You know, it's okay to have opinions, and it's like okay to. The good thing is that they're having an opinion, but they're using sim data to kind of come to what they believe is like a good exposure percentage. So I don't have a problem with how they're doing that. But overall, very, very strong contest selection, very good sim ROI, managing their risk in the post build, not doing a ton, but having some opinions, right? And that's okay. So all in all, really like what I'm seeing from Mr. CL. I think this is a solid performance and good stuff. Keep it up. All right. Moving on to our second person signed up today is going to be Sauce. And we are going to get Sauce up on the screen and keep the show rolling. All right, all right. Main slate coming up now. Let's get Sanderson back up. All right, going to jump over to the contest tab as always. Close this entries pane. So what are we seeing here? So all in all, I think this is good, right? Lower stakes, 20 maxes, 150 maxes, playing them where they can, getting into like a lot of single entry and 3 max, starting from the ground up, playing multiple $12, right? Like hitting all these $12, hitting the 27. I think that's all fine. I think this is good contest selection, right? Probably like very, very close to 50-50 here, which is good. So all in all, good stuff. Going to start with the quarter jukebox. And just waiting for this to load. All right, let's try this one more time. Go back to contests. Try the quarter one more time. If not, we'll try the $4 20 max, see how that goes. Okay, cool. Loaded this time. All right. So it looks like this is our guy, the Gold Cobra. 20 entries, sort by sim ROI. So positive 32% sim ROI. Good news is they're positive, right? Bad news is that they're a little bit lower on the spectrum since highest sim ROI is like 80 to 90%. And then our last person that we studied was like 62. So a little bit of room for improvement, right? So let's see what we can see here. Average salary looks good. Uniqueness looks good. Same average score, even lower than Mr. CL, right? Mr. CL was at like 137. Gold Cobra at like 135. So let's go into this build and see what's going on. Good news is that they are swapping their lineups in the afternoon window. So that's always important. But let's start in this build one. A couple things I'm seeing right off the bat. Default minimax salary. I'm seeing 6 rules here. We will check those out. And let's wait for this to load. All right. No lineup filters, using autofill. Using 3 uniques. Using unique rank. So one thing I would mention here is just the way that these lineups are ordered, right? So like when you have like the 50K prize pool first and then the 40 and then the $1 million prize pool, like so if you have prize pool first, at least like you know that your best lineups are going into the highest prize pool contest. So that's one thing I would probably change here. Another thing is even though you only have one lineup in the Millie Maker, that is still a 150 max contest. So I would actually build that lineup as a part of this set because it seems like they have like one build for their large field and then one build for their smaller field, like single entry stuff. So I would group the Millie Maker with this set in case you weren't doing that. So just small note there. All right, let's come in and look at some of these rules. So these look like a lot of player groups. It looks like mini stacks, like building in mini stacks into their lineups. So it's like Baltimore, Dallas, wide receiver ones, Houston, Minnesota, wide receiver ones, Giant, Cleveland, wide receiver ones. Making sure that every lineup at least has a QB +1. I think that's fine. Use no more than one tight end. Okay, so all these rules I think are like pretty fine overall. And I don't have a lot to say in regards to them, so I think they're fine. All right, minimax exposures. So getting to a lot of HN, getting to a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs. $2x Tony Pollard max. Some small Tommy Tremble exposure. So probably what drove the projection down so much is just taking running back positions with HN and Gibbs. I don't mind the HN one so much because you're like 10% leverage. He's like 25% owned. You want to get to like 35%. Seems okay. I do think the Gibbs one is like kind of a lot where, you know, he's projected for like 3% ownership and you're like jamming him at like 25% of your lineups. That one feels like a lot, like 10x, you know, Gibbs here. And then also like you got to think about the opportunity costs that you give up by putting HN and Gibbs into so many lineups. So like if you're okay making a conscious decision to get to less, you know, Jordan Mason and like Zach Charbonnet and Alvin Kamara in order to get to these other players, that's all right. Now, the question you got to ask yourself is like, hey, if I, you know, was I right? Did I get unlucky? You know, did they get like massive opportunities? Or like kind of where does this research and decisions kind of come from, and making sure that they're coming from a good place where you can like back it up with data and you can figure out like, oh, you know, did Gibbs like actually, you know, see maybe like 70% of the shares of the rush share, and you know Montgomery saw less because of game script or something like that, and he just didn't do much with it. You know, like if even if it doesn't work out, you know, were your inputs or your insight correct, right? Like you could have a situation where you have, you know, wide receiver 3 and you bump him up because you think he's going to get more targets, and like, you know, maybe he doesn't perform well, but when you go back and look, like he actually got the targets you were expecting, but he just didn't, you know, they didn't connect, or like they weren't long completions or something like that. Like that could be a win, right? It could be a loss in fantasy points, but it could be a win in your decision-making process. So just making sure that you're holding yourself true there. But that's probably why we're seeing the lower sim average score, therefore the lower sim ROI. So when you're taking stands against a builder like that, just be aware what you might be losing in regards to post-contest sim ROI. Couple decisions here. with minimax exposures. Don't really know where these came from. I'd recommend the same line of thinking here, but all in all, I didn't think the rules were too impactful. I think it's okay to have some opinions. Remember, like, what you're kind of giving up to get to your opinions, making sure your opinions are coming from a good, solid place, and adjusting accordingly week to week, right? Something I do. Like if I have opinions, I write it down and I go back and check and like, hey, how often am I right? Am I right 50%? Am I right less? Am I right more? Is this even worth doing? And trying to be objective in that analysis. So good stuff, Sauce. Keep at it, and I'm sure you'll be just fine. All right. Next person up, going to be Interrogator. And let's get this up. All right. Let's go to the main slate. Get this SaberSim back on the screen. Go to the contest tab. Close entries. Contest selection looks pretty solid here. 3, 6, 9, 10, 12. Maybe a little low. Could have thrown in like a couple more single entries. But it looks like they wanted to participate in the max challenge plus some of these smaller ones. So actually, I don't mind it. I think it's fine. Now, let's go to the quarter. And let this load. Almost there, I think. All right, users. Renegade here is our guy. 20 entries. Sorted by sim ROI. So 41% sim ROI, not bad. A little bit of room for improvement. Average salary looks good. Uniqueness looks good. Sim average score a little low, 134.8. Let's go and see some of the decisions that they made to get to this point. Good news is they are swapping their lineups right in the afternoon window, so always important. We'll go to this 20 ME build. I'm assuming that's where this quarter jukebox is going to come from. All right. Upped min salary looks good. Using Saber score looks good. One lineup filter. Projected score greater than 115. I think it's good to have that projection floor. So happy with that. A couple rules. Don't use players against opposing D. Default rule. Okay. So this is an interesting rule. So it's saying if at least one quarterback on a team, then use no more than one wide receiver on the same team. I actually don't like this because you got to think that, when we build lineups, right, and our correlation's at 6, which is considered high, we are using what is called upside correlation. So the truth is we don't really care how, Brock Purdy correlates to his wide receivers and his pass catchers when he has a bad game. We don't care about Brock Purdy's 25th percentile because he's never going to get into your lineup with that type of outcome. What we care about is, when you pull up a player's graph, right? And we'll just go to quarterbacks since I'm talking about them. And say I pull up Purdy, right? Like, okay, we see like Ayuk's correlation, Juwan Jennings, Saubert, Conley, but these are averages, right? These are like their average correlations across all the sims. But when we actually build your lineups and a quarterback is good enough to get into the lineup, we go and look at what we call their upside correlations, their correlations in their, top 99th percentile sims, their top 95th percentile sims, their top 85th percentile sims. I don't know exactly where that cutoff is, but we're looking at like that top range of games. And we're saying, what are the correlations in this smaller bucket? Because those are what we want to amplify, because we know we're going to need upside to win this contest, right? So limiting one wide receiver per quarterback, I think, is actually like a bad thing, because not only are the average correlations high, but the upside correlations are going to be even higher, because, Purdy's top 95th percentile outcome is like 30 points. Well, who's he throwing to, right? He's probably throwing more than one touchdown. He's probably throwing into multiple receivers. And, it's very possible for more than one player on their team to have a really good game at the same time. So I would highly rethink the rule with no more than one wide receiver from the same team. It's not something I love there. Couple max exposure changes: Kamara, Mason, Charbonnet. So all the value running backs, this could drive down some average score as well. We've talked extensively about those. So just be sure you want to make those decisions. Matching exposure on Sam Darnold at a minimum, I think that's fine. And other than that, not a ton of changes, right? Not so far as I can see. So all in all, I think the projection filter is good. I think the contest selection is good here. Let's check this autofill real quick. So one other thing to note, right, is make sure you are adjusting the Sabre scores for the specific contest, right? So like, I'm almost positive both of these contests are over like 80,000 entries. So I would make sure to be updating these to large slate 50K plus Sabre score, right? So check the entries for the contest you're in on the contest tab, and then come into the rank by and change it to the appropriate entry setting, not just what the default is. So that can also have an impact on the lineups that you get as well. So to summarize, good, positive 40% sim ROI, room for improvement. I would recommend against the limiting of the wide receiver rule. I think the projection filter is good. Be aware of what you give up in sim average score with limiting the value running backs. And as long as you're making a conscious decision there, I think it's okay. And it's okay to have some opinions like Sam Darnold and some of these other guys. So all good there. So on the right track, couple adjustments. I think it'd be just fine. All right. Those are everybody that I had signed up for today. If anybody tuning in and likes this content and wants me to review their own lineups, best thing you could do, drop your DK username in the Office Hours channel in our Discord server, and I will get you on the list for tomorrow's show. So appreciate everybody tuning in. I will see you all tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern for Office Hours, and then Build Review Show at 5 p.m. Eastern. So until tomorrow, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.